Good morning and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. As always, I'm your host, Noah Warren. And last night, the NBA returned for the first time since early October. It was actually the shortest offseason in the history of professional sports, just over 70 days. And yeah, I was happy for it to be back, even though it seemed very quick. Hockey's been off for so long now. But the NBA returned, and we saw two games last night for opening night. Warriors visiting the new Brooklyn Nets, the newly formed Brooklyn Nets with Steve Nash as head coach. And then the nightcap was the Battle of LA between the Clippers and Lakers. And two very different games. Both games were quite sloppy. A lot of turnovers, some poorly timed passes, and that's going to happen, especially early on. In an NBA season, more than any other sport, the NBA takes more time for players to gel. And if you can come back with a team that's pretty close to what it was the year before, I think you're better off than any other sport, just because for whatever reason you take longer to figure out where each other are going to be, what you can expect from people on different nights. And in the NBA, bench players can go so hot and cold that it's really hard to predict what you're going to get from a certain player on a given night. So to touch on the games last night, we saw the Warriors just get destroyed by the Brooklyn Nets. This was really a coming out party for the new Brooklyn Nets. Last year, they finished seventh in the East with Kyrie Irving out majority of the season, and former two-time Finals MVP and a league MVP Kevin Durant missing the entire year with a torn Achilles tendon. But this game really showed what this team can do if it can stay healthy the whole year. Kyrie Irving played one of the better games I've ever seen him play. Coming into this season and just the past couple weeks, he hasn't been speaking to the media. He's calling them pawns. And he's been a guy that said some really stupid stuff in the past. Like he's claimed that the world's flat, and he likes to draw attention to himself and then not ask any questions when he says something stupid. And, obviously that's a hypocritical stance, but he played great last night. So if his play can back it up, then there's really no questions. But last night, he goes 10 for 16 from the field, 26 points, 4 for 7 from free. And he helped the Brooklyn Nets beat Golden State 126-94 and just destroy them. It wasn't even close. And it showed Golden State what their season might be like. I still think they can be a playoff team right there. The West is tough. I think the whole NBA is a lot better this year than it has been in years past. There's a lot of competitive teams. I think playoffs are not so determined right before the season, which I like because, in years past, you can predict an NBA champion. And you could say this year that the Lakers are going to win it, but I don't think it's a cakewalk for them. I think they're the best team. But, not the best team doesn't always win. The 2011 Miami Heat led with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh were clear favorites, but they lost to the Dallas Mavericks led by Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Kidd, a team that had way less talent. But, Dirk just was better than LeBron in that series. And, LeBron got the moniker, the Frozen One, because he has a tattoo in his back called the Chosen One. That was a funny line by the media. But back to Brooklyn, they look like a great team. The Warriors were never in it. This game was really over by the end of the first quarter. It wasn't close. Brooklyn was leading by over 20 points after the first quarter. Kevin Durant made his first 4 shots. He was feeling great. He finished the night with 22 points, but he only played 25 minutes. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant did not step foot on the floor in the fourth quarter. They didn't have to. They had a 40-point lead early in the fourth quarter, and they played, members of their bench who will not see playing time later in the season. And, they're impressive. They're impressive. And I predicted before the season that they would finish second in the East behind Milwaukee. But I predicted that they would get to the NBA Finals. And, one game doesn't crown anybody, but this was definitely a step in the right direction. time will tell. I think this team's going to have a lot of intrigue the whole season because you have Steve Nash, a first-year head coach who really wasn't on anybody's radar. I remember when it popped up on my phone screen that he got the head coaching job. I was like, what the hell? Like, I didn't even know he wanted to coach. I know he owns he has an ownership stake in the Vancouver Whitecaps of Major League Soccer, but I had no idea that he even had any interest in coaching. But we saw last night on the opposite side, Golden State, they hired Steve Kerr, and he had no head coaching experience, and they went on to have a dynasty-like team. So, I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but I wish Steve Nash all the best. He's one of the great Canadian basketball players, a Canadian icon for sports, really, and two-time NBA MVP in his own right. So, a great night for Brooklyn. Their bench really showed up too. Karis LeVert had 20 off the bench, and they're just a really deep team. They're good defensively, and the bigger story for me was just Golden State. I had them making the playoffs. I'm not going to back off that, but they didn't have Draymond Green last night, which obviously hurt them. But with Klay Thompson out for the season with a torn ACL, it's just going to be tough. I don't know. Their bench really is lacking. They don't have a lot of great talent on the bench. A lot of unsigned, undrafted rookies that they just brought on. And Andrew Wiggins, Canadian former first overall pick of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then shipped to the Minnesota Timberwolves on draft night. He was crowned before he got to the NBA. He had all these expectations that he was going to be the next great Canadian basketball player, and it just hasn't worked out for him. He's been an adequate player in the NBA. A third or fourth best player on a team, maybe. But for Golden State this year without Klay, he really needs to be their second best player because Draymond Green is a great defensive player. He helps Klay with the pick and roll, but he doesn't have a great shot. He doesn't shoot the three that great. So Andrew Wiggins needs to be that second scoring option, and last night just wasn't there. Shot 4 for 16 from the field. He got into foul trouble, and obviously he's got 71 more games to kind of turn this around. But if history tells us anything, it's probably not going to happen for Andrew. He's had this problem his whole career, and I don't know. Playing in Golden State, it's only going to be amplified because they're going to be playing a lot of nationally televised games this year. In Minnesota, he wasn't because they're losing. Nobody really cares about the Timberwolves market. So, but the pressure will be on Wiggins this year. Also, with the Olympics scheduled to start in July, he's never been a person that's really stepped up for Canada internationally. He didn't participate in Olympic qualifying for Team Canada for Canada basketball. So this is a big year for Andrew. He's got his money, he's got his contract, he's got another 3 years on it. But every athlete has pride, and I think he wants to be a better player. And obviously, if Golden State is going to do any damage in the West, they're going to need Andrew Wiggins to step up and play better on a consistent basis. So that was the first game. Like I said, I really like the Brooklyn Nets. I think Kevin Durant is going to win MVP this year. If there was a comeback player of the year, which the NBA doesn't have, it would be Kevin Durant because coming off a torn Achilles, not playing basketball for 18 months, the way he's looked in just a short time frame of getting back to playing competitive basketball in a preseason game and then in the opener last night, he looks great. His shot is just so effortless. He's 7 foot tall. He's got handles. He can pass the ball like no other. And just for a man at that size, what he can do is really incredible. The NBA's never seen it. He may be the most efficient scorer in the history of the NBA. And yeah, I think Brooklyn's got great things coming. They play, they're on the Christmas Day slate. They are going to Boston, which should be a good game. Kyrie Irving used to play for the Celtics. didn't have a great exit there, kind of like his exit from Cleveland. And he likes to rub it in that, they miss him and whatnot, even though they got farther in the playoffs without him. But that should be good against the second game of the day after Warriors-Bucks. So the Warriors really have a tough schedule. They open up at Brooklyn, then they go to Milwaukee. That's a tough schedule for them to start the season. I don't think Draymond Green will be in the lineup for that game either. He's still dealing some injury issues. But, they just need Curry to play. I mean, Curry didn't play great last night. He shot 7 for 21, 2 for 10 from 3. So that's really uncommon for Steph. He did finish with 10 assists, but he had a double-double, 20 points, 10 assists, but he needs to do more. And this will really tell people what Steph Curry's made of. He's the best shooter in the history of the NBA. But can he be the centerpiece of a team when they really need him to? And he was good. They won a title without Kevin Durant when they had Clay and Draymond at full health. But can he do it this year with a lot less talent? And, we've seen players like LeBron. He took a team to the finals in his first go-around in Cleveland to an NBA Finals where they really had no business being there. They were so outmatched. They got swept by the Spurs, but they shouldn't have made it through the East, but they did. And Curry is right up there on the Mount Rushmore for the NBA players, but this will be a big year for his legacy and how people view him going forward. So in the nightcap, we saw the LA Clippers defeat the LA Lakers. The LA Lakers, their first game since winning the title. The Clippers, their first game since the second round where they blew a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets. And the Clippers, they played okay. This game was really sloppy. The second quarter, it went 4 minutes without a team scoring. A lot of fouls called. Marc Gasol, the former Raptor, had 5 fouls by early in the third quarter. But the Clippers ended up winning 116-109, and they'll take the win. Paul George, who's been criticized a ton after getting an extension, 4 years, $195 million, he played great last night. He looked like the Paul George in Indiana. He had 13 points, shot 13 of 18 from the field, which is just unheard of. 5 for 8 from 3. He was cooking last night, and Kawhi was good too. He scored 26. But really, the Lakers just seemed like they weren't interested in playing the game. They had no energy, no commitment to defense, no motivation, really. They had to be out there. It was one of those games where, we have to be here. We'll do it, whatever. And maybe it's just an early championship hangover. Like I just said, it's the earliest offseason in the history of professional sports. So maybe they just took some time to get into the swing of things. But LeBron didn't look right. He couldn't really buy a basket the whole night. He was turning the ball over. He just wasn't the LeBron James that we're accustomed to seeing. He had 22 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, but that's not – he's usually, close to averaging a triple-double on a nightly basis. And he just didn't have it last night. Anthony Davis didn't either. And it's actually common because last year, opening night, these two teams played as well. The Clippers won the game, and both LeBron and Anthony Davis both didn't play great. But the Lakers, I mentioned earlier about how teams that can stay close, the team stays intact, so to speak, have better odds of winning early in the NBA season. Well, the Lakers made a lot of changes. They lost Danny Green. They brought in Dennis Schroeder. They brought in Montrezl Harrell from the Clippers. They decided to make some change. They brought in Marc Gasol as well. So, they've made changes to the roster. And the Clippers did too, but I found both teams just looked out of sorts last night. And, that'll come. I think playing the Lakers and Clippers both need to stay healthy this year because Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, before the playoffs last year, they only played 9 games together. And you need to have that continuity in the NBA. And if they can do that this year, it's imperative that they can both stay healthy and play with each other on a nightly basis. But the Clippers did show some good signs. They got Serge Ibaka, who they signed from the Raptors. He scored 15. He was in the starting lineup. He played pretty well. Luke Kennard, who they acquired from the Pistons, played well. One thing I still think they're missing is like a natural point guard. They have Patrick Beverley out there, but he's more of a shooting guard, small guard. He's not a great ball handler. He's not going to get 10 plus assists, and you don't want Kawhi to have the ball in his hand the whole night. So I still think they need to upgrade that position. And Reggie Jackson off the bench isn't going to be in the starting lineup, or I hope that he's not, because they won't be winning. But they definitely have improved. I still think the Lakers are the best team in basketball, and LeBron, he's going to be 36 December 30th. I still think he's right up there. I think Kevin Durant's the best player in basketball. Obviously he's missed a year or 18 months, but I think this year he'll show people he was the best player in basketball before he got hurt. And the only reason really LeBron took that title is because he was injured. So that'll be a good storyline this whole NBA season. But yeah, I think both teams get right back at it on Friday for Christmas. Starts the 5-game slate on Christmas Day. The 4th game is Dallas Mavericks at LA Lakers, which will be fun. Luka Doncic, who's kind of the front runner right now to win NBA MVP, coming into LA to face LeBron and Anthony Davis and co. He's played. Doncic is one of the funnest players to watch if you get a chance to watch that game. It's at 9:00. He's just so gifted passer. He's not a great shooter yet. I think he can develop that. Not a great free throw shooter either, but he just brings that flash to the game that keeps you interested throughout. And him against LeBron, I think LeBron will be a little bit angry with the start. I think he'll come in, at Christmas Day, big stage game. I think he'll come to play, and that Mavericks Lakers is going to be a lot of fun. That game's followed by Clippers at Denver. So last year, Denver came back from 3-1 down, defeated the Clippers in the playoffs. So it's kind of a revenge game for the Clippers of sorts. Denver's still going to be very good. Jamal Murray from Ontario really emerged last year in the playoffs as a potential superstar in the league. And they still have Nikola Jokic, who's one of the best centers in basketball, maybe the best center in basketball right now. And, I think the Clippers will want to come out and prove something, just kind of give that monkey off their back against this team. But the Christmas Day slate of games to the NBA are going to be great. Warriors at Bucks, Nets at Celtics. I forget the middle one, but Mavs at Lakers and Clippers at Denver. But yeah, it's Christmas Day NBA games are always great. They're always compelling. They always bring you something fun to watch, and I expect nothing different tonight as well, because tonight the Toronto Raptors season kicks off. They start like they did last year against New Orleans. However, last year they played New Orleans in the first game, and Zion Williamson, last year's first overall pick, was not playing. He was injured for the first 41 games of the season. He's must-see TV. At the end of last year, he really was. Apparently he's in better shape, so we'll get to see that tonight. But the way he just can dunk, the way he's so physical, and the way he plays the game is just really different. Maybe we haven't really seen it since Will Chamberlain, just the way, how aggressive and how much he just puts in everything he does, when it comes to power, his power game, and just how he uses his legs really to power himself into dunks, into shots. He's a fun player to watch. So the Raptors this year, obviously not playing in Canada. They're playing in Tampa Bay. So they'll be up against New Orleans tonight. Raptors signed their small forward, OG Anunoby, to a 4-year, $72 million extension on Monday. He was going to be a restricted free agent after the season. He's a player that has a lot of promise. I think he can develop into a top wing player in the NBA. He's already an above average defender. So he's a good signing. It also gives them flexibility if they do want to try to make a trade down the line for a James Harden or a potential superstar. But, the Raptors are kind of in a holding pattern right now. I think they'll be an okay team this year. But a lot of players are staying in their markets. Rudy Gobert would have been a free agent after the year, but he stayed in Utah. He got the highest contract ever given to a center at 5 years, $210 million. We've seen Giannis resign in Milwaukee. So the Raptors are kind of in a holding pattern right now, just being an okay team. I think they'll finish mid-pack in the East, but, they're still relevant. They're still going to be a factor, and they kick off tonight. Also tonight, we'll see Milwaukee playing the Boston Celtics. Boston is another team where they got to the conference finals last year. They fell to the Miami Heat. The Bucks lost in the second round to the same Heat. And, Giannis obviously staying in Milwaukee long term, but it'll be interesting to see where this team is. They added Drew Holiday. They got rid of Eric Bledsoe. I think they're better, not significantly, but they're definitely better right now than they were last year. The Celtics really haven't done anything crazy to the roster. They added Tristan Thompson, who will likely be coming off the bench for them. So, they're still a formidable team in the East. But more so than last year, the East is really wide open. Anybody could win it. Milwaukee's the favorite, but if Boston made it to the NBA Finals, it would not surprise me. Same with the Miami Heat if they got back there. I think Philadelphia is going to be the really sneaky team to watch. I think they will be a factor. I think they'll be a lot better than people are giving credit for right now. Doc Rivers now coaching, getting fired in LA, going to Philadelphia. Seth Curry addition, I love. And I think Simmons and Embiid have to get it together, but I think they can. And yeah, I just think Philly's going to be a team to watch here. They're going to be a sneaky team to catch some teams off guard, and they start their season tonight as well against the Washington Wizards. Then another fun game tonight. It's a late game, but Mavericks at Suns. I've already touched on Luka Doncic and just how fun he is to watch. But the Suns are going to be an interesting team too because they've added Chris Paul, a future Hall of Famer. He went to OKC last year, no expectations. The team was really expected to miss the playoffs, and he was just there because his contract was too big and nobody really wanted him after the trade from Houston. But he was really a mentor. He was a leader on the team, and he got Oklahoma City to he got them to a Game 7 of the opening round. It was a toss-up against Houston. They almost won it. But I think the Suns can do similar things. They got a more talented roster than OKC. Devin Booker is a star in the NBA. He's really emerged the past couple of seasons as a stud. He can shoot from anywhere. And also they got a first overall pick in DeAndre Ayton at center, who I think is going to have a big season and get to close to 25 points a game if they really want to do damage. But they're going to be a fun team to watch every night just because Chris Paul is such a magician with the basketball, finding players open, getting them good looks. And Devin Booker can pull up from, the logo if he really wants to. So just a few games to keep an eye on tonight. And then obviously the Christmas slate will be fantastic. Also, I'll touch on today, Monday Night Football. So Monday night I got home from work and I'm like, Steelers, Bengals. I'll watch first quarter. Steelers will be cruising, so I can catch up on next so me and Seamus can talk about it. So I'm watching the game. Steelers go 3-0. And then Bengals go 3-0. I'm like, oh, this game sucks. And Steelers go 3-0 again. Big Ben nearly throws a pick on the first two possessions. So Bengals get the ball back. They end up getting a field goal. Then next possession, Ben throws a really bad interception. A linebacker just dropped into coverage. I don't know if he didn't see him or just thought he could throw over him. That's intercepted. So then they take the ball. Gio Bernard runs it in, touchdown, 10-0. Excuse me. So we see, I'm like 10-0. Like, what the hell's happening? Steelers, they still can't generate everything. And before we even get to halftime, it's 17-0 Bengals. And just to keep this in mind, the Bengals are without number 1 overall pick, Joe Burrow. With Joe Burrow, the Bengals, when the Steelers were undefeated, lost by 21 points. They're up 17 at half. And the Bengals are no good. They're no good. They came into the game with 2 wins. They really have nothing to write home about. They don't have Joe Burrow. They don't have their top running back, Joe Mixon. They're without their top corner, without their top pass rusher. And they're still, like, Pittsburgh. Cincinnati was playing good defense, don't get me wrong, but it was worse Pittsburgh offense. Ben was nowhere close. Receivers still dropping balls. It was really quite shocking. So 17-0 halftime. The Bengals ended up winning the game 27-17. This was the Steelers' 3rd straight loss after an 11-0 start, and it dropped them to 3rd in the AFC. With the loss, the Bills pass Steelers for 2nd in the AFC standings because the Bills beat them last Sunday. And this is just really a fall from grace. I mean, 3 weeks ago, we were talking about the Steelers potentially, being the next 72 Dolphins. I didn't really buy into that, but that was the ESPN narrative. And they're lacking. They don't have a run game. Their defense is really depleted with Spillane, Devin Bush, Bud Dupree, all out for the season. And they're in trouble right now, no doubt about it. And it's not like you can improve your team. I mean, they got 2 games left before the playoffs against Indianapolis, who are 10-4 and playing some really good football right now. Phillip Rivers is the same age as Ben. They went in the same draft, the 2004 draft. And Phillip Rivers can make deep throws right now. And Big Ben, either they're not letting him or he can't. I'm kind of leaning towards he can't. I mean, he's coming off Tommy John surgery. He's had more hits than almost anybody in the league. And the Steelers are just missing something. You can't ask Ben to throw the football 45 to 50 times a game because it's not going to work. I mean, he threw the ball 38 times Monday night. He only had 170 yards passing. That just means you're dinking and dunking it the whole night, just dropping it off to, backs, tight ends. And it's, in a week where the Jets and Bengals won, I mean, this is just a crazy season in the NFL. Jets and Bengals both beat teams that are going to the playoffs. Both the Rams haven't clinched yet, but the Steelers have already clinched a playoff spot, so they're not in danger of missing the playoffs. But at this point, I'd be shocked if they won a playoff game. This is the scenarios. Say they may hold on and win their division, but they play Indy this Sunday. I don't love them to win that game. I think Indy will beat them this Sunday. So check Indy. That'll drop them to 11-4, and they finish their season against Cleveland, who are playing the Jets this weekend. So I think they will beat the Jets. So check. They'll be 11-4. So the last Sunday of the season will be a battle for the AFC North, in my mind. And if I pick Cleveland to beat Pittsburgh. I know history tells us Pittsburgh's going to win that game and just Cleveland just stinks against their division rivals. But Cleveland's just a better football team than Pittsburgh. And even if Pittsburgh wins their division, say they finish 3rd in the AFC, maybe even 4th because Tennessee's only a game behind them as well. If they finish 3rd in the AFC, they may have to play Indy in the playoffs. I pick Indy again. I don't care if the game's in Heinz Field because they're not changing their entire roster. They're still going to have the same nucleus of players, and it's only gotten worse progressively. And it's a shocking just transformation of this team from this great team that we have this, the utmost respect for, and now they're just falling from grace. And it'll be interesting this Sunday to see what they bring to the table, because against Indy, like I said, and Indy can clinch a playoff spot with a win. So they'll be motivated to do so. I and obviously I think Philip Rivers would love to beat a member of his draft class as well. So I think there'll be a lot of good motivation in this game for both teams. But that's a 2:00 game on Sunday, and that'll definitely be one I'm tracking. Also this weekend we got in football. There's a Christmas Day game, Vikings at Saints. Important game for the Saints, coming off a couple losses against Philly and against Kansas City. They need to wake up a little bit. Drew Brees needs to get some reps in before the playoffs. They also want to hold on to that second seed if they can. They're tied with Seattle right now. It's important for them to have home field as much as they can, with or without fans. It just gives them that sense of comfort. And obviously they're behind Green Bay. Green Bay plays at Tennessee, or against Tennessee at home, and they finish against the Bears. So, but it's important for New Orleans to win that game. Tampa Bay Bucks, they play Detroit on Sunday. They can lock up a playoff spot with a win. I think they will win that game. Detroit sucks. They just don't have enough skill. And Matthew Stafford may not play. If I was him, I wouldn't be playing. The week before last, he got this rib injury. And he didn't break anything, but you can tell he's banged up. And I don't know why he's playing. I get he's a warrior, and he's got that warrior spirit, but hopefully you can get your ass out of Detroit after this season. Just let Chase Daniel, the backup quarterback who's made the most money as a backup quarterback ever in the NFL, play. He's made over $30 million, Chase Daniel, and he's only made 8 starts. He's viewed as one of the elite backups, and he gets paid a ton of money to not play. Sounds like a pretty good gig. So good for him. But let Chase take some hits. Stafford, hopefully they want to get rid of you in Detroit, because it'll be a saving grace for your career to get out of that hellhole that the Fords are running up in Detroit. Saturday night, Miami visits Vegas. It's a crucial game for Miami. It's a must-win. Derek Carr may or may not play. He left last Thursday's game against the Chargers. If not, Marcus Mariota will make his first start in a year and a half. So Miami's got to win that. Baltimore's got the easiest schedule left. They got the Giants, and then they finish against the Bengals. Dolphins got Vegas, and then they finish at Buffalo. So I think Baltimore is going to take that final playoff spot from Miami, but you still like to see a good fight from this young team. And if they can get a win Saturday, who knows, the Bills, if they know they're locking up the second seed with a Steelers loss, they may decide to sit out Josh Allen or some key important players to rest for the next week's wildcard weekend. So anything can happen, but first things first for the Dolphins in this situation, they need to win that game. But yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. The World Juniors kick off Friday, football game, 5 NBA games, NBA Saturday, World Juniors again, Team Canada kicking off. And just to touch on the World Juniors, I'm going to be doing a preview show tomorrow. That should drop around 5:30, 6 o'clock. Got to work, got to pay the bills, and then I'm going to come home and just talk about that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But so that'll be done tomorrow. But after every Team Canada game, I'm going to be doing a recap of the Canada game and how they played, players that I thought were great, not so great. And then also just touch on the other games as well, what teams I think are real threats to Canada. And Canada actually plays in a pre-tournament game tonight against Russia at 7 o'clock. So just something to keep an eye on before the tournament. It's the best tournament in the world. It's not even close, in my opinion. Just the passion that these kids come into the tournament with is really something special, and I can't wait to watch these young men do what they love to do. But like I said, preview show will drop tomorrow. NFL action this weekend, so it's Sunday. Yeah, Box Office Sunday. I'll be doing a podcast Sunday morning about Team Canada's game. Monday morning as well. Monday I'll be doing a NFL recap of the weekend. The Friday show, Saturday morning show I usually do, won't be happening this weekend. I'll be just taking a break from that for Christmas festivities. That'll be back next weekend. But yeah, as I get closer to the holidays, I've been doing this for a little over a month, and everybody that's been watching, that's been giving me good feedback, I really appreciate it. Obviously, the more listeners I get, the more content I can get on a regular basis. And the new year, I'm going to try to get a schedule for you guys so you guys can know when it's going to drop, a certain time every day. So yeah, just thank you guys so much for the support. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about Team Canada. But we'll talk soon.